Hello and welcome to Moneycontrol. I'm today joined by India's Civil Aviation and Steel Minister, Jyotiraditya Scindia, who has over the past 1.5 years maneuvered this sector from the turbulence unleashed by COVID now to smooth sailing. Welcome to Moneycontrol, sir.
Thank you so much, Rohit.
Sir, can it be said that removal of infrastructure bottlenecks, especially when we talk about new airports, positions in DGCA, safety aspects because we didn't have the positions in DGCA, start of new Udan flights, can now we say that the thrust for this sector would be given by removal of these infrastructure bottlenecks going forward?
So I'll rephrase your question and I'll say not necessarily the thrust is not by the removal of infrastructure bottlenecks, but it's the creation of infrastructure in our country. The fact of the matter is that civil aviation will certainly become a very important cog in the wheel of transportation in India as it is worldwide. Let me give you a few facts. Prior to COVID, in 1920, we had 144 million domestic travelers, 60 million international travelers, almost 200 million travelers in total. As of today, last month, we had close to about 11.4 million travelers, which means we've come very close to the average of pre-COVID, which was 12 million travelers a month. I'm very confident that in the years to come, this number will grow very healthily to a total number of close to 400 million travelers over the next 3 to 4 years or 5 years in India, as it's a sector that's experiencing tremendous growth opportunities. Let me define what those growth opportunities are. From a country that had, in 68 years of its independence, only 74 airports, under the impetus given by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji himself, who really created the plan for democratization of civil aviation in India. नागर विमानन क्षेत्र का लोकतांत्रिकरण की प्रणाली की शुरुआत उन्होंने की. We have added 69 new airports in the last 8 years, including waterdromes and heliports, which means that airport civil aviation infrastructure has almost doubled in the last 8 years in terms of what was created in the first 68 years of India's independence. And that doubling of infrastructure in terms of airports is not constrained only to tier 1 cities like Delhi and Bangalore and Bombay, which is what we hear of, but it's really tier 2 and tier 3 cities. The very fact, let me give you an example, such as in the Northeast, which had only 9 airports till 2013, today boasts of 16 airports in the Northeast. The very fact that states like Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim, which did not have a single airport in 68 years, today Arunachal has 3 airports and Sikkim has Pakyong as an airport. The fact that today we had 852 air traffic movements in the Northeast, which has now grown by 113% to almost 1,817 traffic movements. That speaks volumes of the growth of air connectivity. Through Udan, many new smaller airports have been built in tertiary cities such as Rupsi in Assam, Kishangarh in Rajasthan, Jharsuguda in Orissa, Darbhanga, and many, many other stories which have become today huge centers of growth. We are also concentrating on last mile connectivity, and therefore the advanced landing grounds, for example, in Arunachal Pradesh, such as Zero and Pasighat, are being serviced through Alliance Air, through the Dornier 228 aircraft, which is made in India. In hilly states like Himachal, Alliance Air has bought an ATR 42 aircraft to be able to cater to places like Shimla and Kullu. So the spread is both wide as well as deep of civil aviation, and I see that trend continuing in the years to come.
Sir, when you first joined the ministry, you started writing to various state governments for reduction of VAT on jet fuel. And as we know, VAT on jet fuel in India, in addition to the international prices, the combination of everything becomes very high for airlines to operate in.
You're absolutely right.
And subsequently, the passengers have to pay higher fares. You have been successful in bringing most of the states to reduce the VAT. How many more states are left? And are you confident that you'll be able to get more states to reduce VAT?
So when I took charge, this was one of the major bottlenecks for the growth of civil aviation in our country. The very fact that we had a VAT regime on air turbine fuel, and we had only 12 states that were in the bracket of 1 to 4% VAT. All the balance 24 states were in the bracket of 20 to 30% VAT on air turbine fuel. So you had a double whammy. When air turbine fuels rose, you had the rise in ATF prices themselves, plus the additional VAT rise due to an increase in the base price of the ATF as well. Many people were opining that we should follow the GST route. As you all know, that is a process of consultation through the GST Council, and sometimes does understandably take a long period of time. Therefore, within the ministry, we decided to attack the problem head on, and we started writing and conversing and pleading and requesting and trying to make states understand the plausibility of the model of reducing VAT level on ATFs, which will then be a new harbinger for greater connectivity into their state as well as greater refueling into their states. And I'm very glad to report to you that out of the 24 states that were in the higher bracket of 20 to 30%, 16 states out of the 24 have moved to the lower bracket of 1 to 4%. And through your channel, I'd like to thank from the bottom of my heart the leadership in those states, the chief ministers in those states that have come forward. And so today we have a basket of where we had a 12 versus 24 scenario. We have a basket of 28 states and union territories that are in the 1 to 4% bracket, and only 8 that are left in the higher bracket. And through your channel, I'd also like to fervently request and fold my hands to the balance 8 states that are left to please come on to this side so that we can provide greater connectivity as well as greater revenue for those states in terms of multiple economic advantages that come through the area of civil aviation. In the bracket of the 16 states that have moved, we have larger states like Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat. We have the northeastern states like Tripura and Manipur and Arunachal Pradesh. We have hilly states like Himachal and Uttarakhand. We have union territories like Jammu and Kashmir, Andaman and Nicobar, Lakshadweep, and Daman and Diu. So we have a bevy of bouquet of all states that come together to form the Union of India. At the same time, the 8 states that are still on the cusp of moving over, I'd like to fervently request states like Maharashtra and Delhi and Goa and Tamil Nadu and Rajasthan and Bihar and Assam to also come on board as soon as possible so that we can provide a level playing field and greater connectivity across the country.
Mr. Minister, the conversations right now is to make India as a hub, and we need hub airports in this country. And you have been gently pushing the airlines to actually, start direct services from India to overseas destinations in the United States, in the United Kingdom. We recently signed a pact with Canada for open skies policy. Going forward, would there be some support given to these airlines to add these kind of twin aisle aircrafts, large body aircrafts in the country? And is there any plans for some sort of a PLI for manufacturing of air components in the country going forward, sir?
So let me answer your multiple questions. As far as the connectivity is concerned, I'm urging all our domestic and international carriers to get more wide-bodied aircraft so that we can go point to point. I'm glad to report that many of our airlines have a very robust pipeline of fleet acquisition of wide-bodied aircraft so we can provide point-to-point service. Along with that, I must also say that through International Udan, we are trying to connect the Northeast with our neighbors in the days to come. At the same time, we're trying to create a hub within India also for our airlines, and the first exercise that we're trying to conduct is with regard to the Delhi airport, where we can create a hub and spoke environment within Delhi. As far as manufacturing is concerned, we are pushing for greater manufacturing in India because that brings along with it tremendous multiplier effects for the whole ecosystem of civil aviation. And the Prime Minister-led example is a case in point in Vadodara, where the C-295 Airbus manufacturing facility is being located, where 40 out of 56 aircraft will be made in India, almost 13,000 components that will be sourced from India. Bharat Dynamics and Bharat Electronics, I believe, who will supply a lot of the radar equipment for those aircraft. So it has tremendous offshoots for our sector. We're also looking at MRO investment in India, and Safran has come forward to set up an MRO facility of almost $150 million in India, seeing the huge growth in this market. So I think the green shoots are very, very visible for our sector, and I look forward to the civil aviation sector becoming a very, very important part of our transportation network in India in the days to come. Thank you very much for having me.